woven into a fabric as rebellious as our roots. We race, outdrive, outlast, outfeel, joy, pain, angst, pride, until one driver emerges. Winner. Defiantly unapologetic, authentically NASCAR.
Roll Tide, happy summer. Welcome back to Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you from our Tuscaloosa studio today, and we hope you've enjoyed the last few weeks of the offseason. The last time we had this show, we were live from Omaha, Nebraska, previewing Alabama baseball in the 2026 College World Series, but that was then, this is now. Now we're starting to focus on what's coming up this fall as sports are returning to the University of Alabama campus, and this week we are really starting to think about football with SEC Media Days in Tampa. So it's time to take a look at some Crimson Tide football headlines, plus what's going on around our show, thanks to our friends RJ Young. RJ Young, the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. Let's see what's on the show this afternoon. Well, first of all, we'll visit with college football expert Phil Steele. Every single year he puts out his Phil Steele's College Football Preview, an outstanding magazine, over 370 pages, including detailed breakdowns of the Alabama Crimson Tide. He'll join us to talk about what he sees for Alabama and the SEC coming up this fall. Then we'll go down to Tampa and take a look at some video from Kalen, DeBoer, Zabien, Brown, Bray, Hubbard, Ryan Coleman-Williams, all participating yesterday at SEC Media Days in Tampa. That's what's coming up, thanks to our friends RJ Young. With our football headlines, I mentioned Alabama really well represented by Ryan Coleman-Williams, Bray Hubbard, Zabien Brown, and of course the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen, DeBoer. So much content from those guys that we'll get to later on in this show, but really well represented Alabama at SEC Media Days coming up this week in Tampa, Florida. Now coming up in Tuscaloosa on Saturday, August 8th, there will be the Yay Alabama Media Day, and that's available to all Yay Alabama members, but you have to be a member and you can buy tickets online through yayalabama.com. Really cool interactive displays, and getting a chance to meet Crimson Tide football players, kind of be around for all the big media day moments as well. So don't miss that. Thanks to our friends at Yay Alabama. Learn more at yayalabama.com. Other news around Crimson Tide athletics, Ballin and Boutwell will return coming up this year. We can't wait to be back at historic Boutwell Auditorium in downtown Birmingham for two games coming up in October. For the men's basketball team, they'll take on the Ole Miss Rebels in a very special All-SEC exhibition in October. Earlier that day, the women's basketball team will take on Alabama Huntsville. First look at Pauline Love as the head coach of the Crimson Tide in women's basketball. Some more details available, rolledtide.com, Ballin and Boutwell for those two basketball games before we even play the third Saturday in October. Speaking of what's coming up in October and also in September and August, Crimson Tide Soccer. The full schedule for West Hart and the ladies has been released on rolledtide.com. The season opener will be August 12th with the Crimson Tide starting the year on the road at St. Louis against the Billikens. Now it's time to talk some football. And again, Phil Steele, we love talking to him. We love this very detailed preview that he always has, the Phil Steele College Football Guide. I think the green screen, not really able to show it right now, but again, we always look forward to this magazine. If you're anywhere at the beach or the pool this summer, you see people reading the work of Phil Steele as he gets us ready for the college football season. How's everything going as we get ready for the fall?
Oh, everything's going great, Roger. It's my favorite time of year. I kick back. There's no deadlines. It's not magazine season. It's not football season. I'm just doing maybe 6 to 7 radio shows a day, maybe working 60, 65 hours a week. It's almost like being on vacation.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you join us to talk about what's coming up, first of all, for the Alabama Crimson Tide, then the rest of the Southeastern Conference. And Phil, I was looking through some of your different rankings, and I see Alabama is number one, not necessarily in the power poll or in the SEC projected finish, but your surprise teams. What makes Alabama the number one surprise team that you have this year?
Well, the first thing, Roger, is they qualified for a surprise team for the first time since 2005, because to make the surprise team list, you have to not be in the preseason AP top 10, and Bama's not going to be in the top 10 at the start of the year. So I jumped on the chance to use them on the surprise team list. Now, I think everybody in the country watched them get blown out by Georgia and blown out by Indiana, couldn't run the football, lose your starting quarterback, and that's why everybody's so down on them. But I'm a big Kalen DeBoer DeBoer fan, and he's a guy that's 14-5 versus ranked teams the last 3 years. I like that. I like the talent that he's got compiled. I like both quarterbacks, Kalen Russell and Austin Mack. I think whichever guy wins the job is going to have an excellent year. Mack is a 6'6", 232-pound guy that knows the system, and Russell was just a true freshman last year, and now he's got some experience under his belt. You look at the running backs, I think they've got the running backs to have a good running game with Hill, Kroll, Riley, and Deere. The offensive line should be improved this year. Ryan Coleman-Williams, I think, returns to his 2024 form. Secondary looks like one of the best in the country. And remember, this is a team that was the number 1 seed in the SEC championship game last year. They did have a good season until the end. And when I look at the schedule this year, I think they get off to a great start. In fact, I do not have them a pure underdog in any game this year, Roger. I've got them pick them against Georgia at home. They won against Georgia on the road last year. They play at Tennessee and at LSU, a couple more toss-up games. But I think Kalen DeBoer, in his third year, gets Bama back in the playoff and back into being a title contender once again.
Well, our fans certainly like hearing that. When you look at where Alabama fits in the SEC landscape, you mentioned the Georgia game will be coming up. You have Georgia and Texas listed just ahead of Alabama. What made Georgia and Texas stand just a little bit taller than Alabama when you were looking at the SEC as a whole?
Yeah, and with Georgia, they are a team that's loaded with talent. They got a lot of guys back from last year's squad. Overall, they're number 12 on my experience chart. They have my number 2 rated defense in the country. Almost the whole squad back from last year. They really go 3 deep on that side of the ball. They're one of the most homegrown teams out there. And what I mean by homegrown is you recruit freshmen and they turn into sophomores, juniors, seniors. You have that team atmosphere. You do use the transfer portal, but you don't rely on the transfer portal. I think that's a big plus. Their offensive line this year is number 7 in the country in my rankings. The running back core, number 6. And I really like Gunnar Stockton. He's a guy that played well under pressure, great on fourth down, great in the fourth quarter. I think he had something like a 18-2 ratio against ranked teams last year. So there's a lot of positives for Georgia. Now, they do play Alabama and Ole Miss both on the road. I don't know if anybody's going to get through the SEC unbeaten this year, Roger, with 9 SEC games. But I've got Georgia getting back to the SEC title game again and winning it this year. And then Texas, last year Arch Manning got off to a slow start, but let's keep in mind he only had 1 returning starter on the offensive line. His top running back last year only had 597 yards. This year they added a 1,000-yard rusher from NC State and Hollywood Smothers, a 1,000-yard rusher from Arizona State and Raleek Brown. The offensive line now becomes a strength. I rate it in the top 20 this year. They bring in a guy like Cam Coleman to go along with Ryan Wingo at receiver, a better supporting cast. We saw Manning get better as the year went on last year. I think he looks like the Arch Manning you thought he'd be last year. That's a dangerous offense. And defensively, I've got Texas number 8 in the country. So a top 10 offense, top 10 defense, number 1 special teams. I think Texas is clearly a threat in the SEC. I believe Georgia, Texas looks like the title game, but Alabama clearly has a shot at getting there.
Well, we certainly like hearing that, and a lot of the media pundits around SEC Media Days this week are putting, when they look at their own projections, putting Ole Miss, LSU, Oklahoma slightly ahead of Alabama. But again, what gave you some confidence about the Crimson Tide to have them number 3 on your list?
Yeah, I think it's number 1, Kalen DeBoer. A big Kalen DeBoer fan. I think he stepped into an incredibly tough situation. I asked him that first year after he took the job. I'm like, why would you step into these shoes? It's quite a task. Everybody remembers Phil Bankston stepping into Vince Lombardi's shoes, but he was up for it. And I think it's the 3rd year. We saw last year they were the number 1 seed in the SEC championship game. I just think everybody's dismissing them this year. Plenty of talent. I like the offense that they have. I like the quarterbacks they have. I just like the overall talent and the schedule, and a big Kalen DeBoer fan.
And then nationally, what does the SEC have to do to bring home another national title, Phil? It's been a long drought for us going all the way back to Georgia in 2022.
Yeah, it definitely is. 3 straight championships for the Big Ten, and by 3 different teams. And they've got a shot at actually having a 4th different team in Oregon this year go for the title. They've got 3 teams that will be ranked in the preseason top 10, and all deservedly so, with Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana. I think for the SEC, one thing is let's get over that bye week. It seems like if you look at the bye week teams, in the playoff. They're just 1-7. Only Kurt Signetti's been able to come out of there with a win. So I think Kirby Smart probably will develop some stuff to get over the bye week syndrome. And I just think the SEC is going to be there and has a great shot at breaking through and finally getting that elusive national title.
Well, for you, as you start thinking about what these teams are going to look like in the fall as you work on the magazine, how difficult has it been projecting future success with the volatility of the transfer portal and the rosters changing more than they ever have?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, though, this year was a better year than the previous 3 years as far as putting a magazine together because there was no second transfer portal window. And, every coach I talked to, they'd say, "Hey, Phil, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I am doing great. There's no second transfer portal window. I don't have to rewrite 138 teams in the month of May. I'm loving it." And the coaches would come back with, Phil, it was more of a team this spring. The guys we went into spring with, we knew we were coming out with. We could coach them harder. We could list the 3 deep knowing they weren't going to leave after spring with no second spring portal window. We just felt more like a team this spring. I think the lack of the second spring portal window is going to improve college football overall this year because almost every coach I talked to said they felt like more of a team and were happier coming out of spring.
Well, in my role as the radio host for Alabama football, Phil, I only get to watch one game a week from start to finish. That's the Alabama game. I kind of catch glimpses of other games as we're on the air and getting ready for the ball games. But I understand you have a very different setup on game day. How do you keep up with all the action all across the country every single Saturday?
Yeah, and people ask me, they go, "How many games do you go to?" And I say 0. I've got it set up where I got 12 TVs in front of me, so I'm trying to watch 12 games all day long. It takes a lot of Diet Mountain Dew throughout the course of the day. But, I watch all 12 games. I listen to 2 of them at that time. I've got a ring of 4 in front of me that I can tell you every single play of the game. And of the 12 TVs, there's usually only 3 or 4 plays going on at a time. I've been blessed with being able to pay attention to all 12 TVs and all day long. And then on Sundays, I don't even watch the NFL. I just walk around in my barn and get some exercise after sitting there watching all that football on Saturday. And I watch tape games from Saturday so I can listen to their announcers talk about the game, maybe pick up a few notes from them talking to the coaches during the week. But that's all I do is college football year-round, and Saturdays are definitely a very hectic day with 12 TVs in front of me.
I can understand. Well, we'd love to host you sometime in Tuscaloosa, but we know it's hard for you to break away from all those television screens and all the games you have to keep up with. Phil, just thank you for the great work on the guide that you do each and every year. Again, it's a huge part of my research as I get ready for my role with Alabama. So just thank you for all the hard work you do, and thank you for joining us this week on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Thank you.
Hey, always a lot of fun, and I appreciate you having me on, Roger. Always good talking to you, my friend.
Woven into a fabric as rebellious as our roots, we race, outdrive, outlast, outfeel, joy, pain, angst, pride, until one driver emerges. Winner. Defiantly unapologetic, authentically NASCAR.
Our thanks to Phil Steele. Now here's a look at how Alabama was represented yesterday at SEC Media Days in Tampa. Comments from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer, as well as defensive backs Zabien Brown, Bray Hubbard, and wide receiver Ryan Coleman-Williams.
When it comes to our team, just really excited about what this season's going to look like. A lot of new faces. And so, there are some unknowns, but there's a lot of things that we know we can hang our hat on. Things that we can build on. Greg mentioned, some of just the successes that we had last year, 7-1 in the conference, making the conference championship, winning a playoff game. We obviously fell short of our goals when it comes to winning the conference championship, winning more games and competing for a national championship in the playoffs. But there are some steps that I felt we took. I think there's a toughness, there's a culture that exists. You don't win that many games in our conference without, and we want to continue to build. We don't take these things for granted because, as I mentioned, there's over 50 new players in this football program, guys who have maybe been a part of the league at other places, but a lot of guys who haven't. And so every year you start over. Every year you build that foundation, you take the experiences you've had, and I think those collectively together are the ones that you really look at. A year ago, I can think about standing up here and talking about how we needed to improve in penalties, and we went from bottom of the pack in the conference to right at the top, if not the top in the conference when it comes to penalty yardage per game. And the ability to be great in critical moments, a lot of close losses the year before, and finding ways to be great and at the end of the half, in the red zone, the end of a game, critical moments, third and fourth downs. We wanted to get more pressure on the quarterback. And so we did a lot of those things last year. We need to make sure that we don't take them for granted. You achieve what you emphasize, and we got to make sure we continue to emphasize those areas that we want to continue to keep strengths for us as we work on the things that we want to improve. Just other improvement areas. I think we need to really look at it. We want to be able to run the football better. I think that will help our overall team. That will help overall when it comes to protecting your quarterback. Makes play calling easier, and so that's something we've addressed and stressed within our team. Just taking advantage of the skill sets we have on the defensive side. Thinking about our secondary and all the guys that we return with the entire group, and then even some of the guys that are in the rotation returning as well. I think we added some pieces, not just in the offensive line, but the defensive line that can come in and really give us what we want from a physicality standpoint. Appreciate our coaching staff. We have a lot of continuity there. Defensive side returns everyone. We've made a few hires, some opportunities for guys that got opportunities to go be head coaches and coordinators at other places, bringing in guys like Richard Owens as tight ends coach, Adrian Clem and Derek Nix on the offensive side. They've done a great job gelling with the rest of our staff there and bringing the pieces together. So looking forward to this season. Really excited about this group. Whenever we have media days, I know that means the season's upon us, and these guys have been working extremely hard. Your season, or your team is made in these summer months. We got to come together and have a great fall camp. There's a lot of execution and things that we need to refine that need to take place just through getting the reps that will come here in the month of August. So looking forward to a great season.
What do you hope to prove this season as you try to make it a good year?
Honestly, just going into this year, my main focus is, just trying to be a consistent guy day in and day out. And with the work that I put in, obviously the results will show for themselves. So really just being the best version of myself day in and day out for my squad and for myself.
Front row on the aisle.
Ryan, what's the biggest difference that you've noticed in yourself through your growth from your first start against Western Kentucky in 2024 to what will be your first start this year against East Carolina, both on the field and through your mindset?
Really just, with this game, you learn so much, whether that's, what inside zone is or, just it's so many things that you can learn from this game. So just enjoying the process of learning and, taking everything that I've learned from then until now, and just being able to move fast because I've been through the things that I've been through to be able to learn and play at a high pace.
Second row in the end.
Leo Haggerty, Amped Up Sports Draft Nation here in Tampa. Team goals obviously at the top of your list. What are your individual goals that you aspire to get to help get to those team goals?
Honestly, for myself, one of the biggest things that has always been important to me is being a team captain for my squad. So I think with that it just allows me an opportunity to it's like an extra chip on your shoulder to just be able to like I said, be my best self because obviously I know the work that I have to put in from now into the first game and even throughout the season. So really just focusing in on that, but. I know the individual accolades will handle themselves, so I guess I haven't put too much thought into that.
You've been a starter on this defense since your freshman year. What does it mean to you that coach trusts you enough to execute at such a competitive level?
It means the most that I have, my coach's trust and confidence in me. Allows me to play harder, play faster, and knowing that people got my back.
Go on the second side.
Leo Haggerty, Amped Up Sports Draft Nation here in Tampa. Obviously, at the top of your list are team goals, but what are your individual goals that you set to get that team goal up higher?
For sure, yeah. I just want to be, I'm working on being a great leader every day, making personal connections with guys on the team, on my side of the ball, other side of the ball, and I think that things like that will go a long way for us.
Front row.
Zabien, you've been a part of some of the bigger interceptions in recent Alabama history, notably the interception to beat Georgia in 2024, the pick six against Tennessee at the end of the half, and then another pick six against Oklahoma to tie the game in the college football playoff. Is that something that's always been natural to you, being around the ball at the right time, or is that something that's been coached through you since arriving to Alabama or even since high school?
Nah, I feel like I'm a natural ball player. I grew up, playing on the other side of the ball, so catching the ball, having the ball in my hands, it's just natural to me. So,
what individual goals are you aspiring for to make those team goals happen?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I guess some of my team goals would just be playing consistent every day, every game, and going out there and giving my team my best effort. And that's what I got to do to help my team win and do my job at a very high level. Obviously, I have all my personal goals, but at the end of the day, we're all striving to be the best in the country and ultimately win a national championship.
Go on the right side, second row.
Hi, Bray. Jacob Worthing, KRUI, Iowa City. With so many new faces on defense, how has the secondary built chemistry this offseason?
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of new faces, especially on that second level, and not necessarily on the second level, but really on the D-line. There's a lot of new guys there. There's really just younger guys over at the linebacker position. But with the secondary, obviously we've all played together for about 2 years now. So just the unity that we have and the trust that we have built between all five of us back there, whether that's DJ, ZB, me, Keon, and Red, or even some of the younger guys that are our backups. We just trust each other, but that also allows us to play fast. So, I can trust ZB that he's going to do his job, so that allows me to just focus on the call, focus on maybe the formation and what I'm expecting out of this certain formation or anything like that. So just the trust is a huge thing between that back end, but that also shows just, that obviously we're all returning, and we play a lot of snaps together.
Appreciate the SEC for that video, and that is going to wrap up Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, on this Thursday afternoon. Huge thank you to our guest at the beginning of the show, Phil Steele, and we want to remind you that this show will be coming to you once a week, Thursday at 2 o'clock, all the way leading up to our first game week when Alabama prepares to take on East Carolina. So make sure you join us, especially follow us at UA_CTSN, and make sure you subscribe on YouTube so you won't miss anything from us here at the Crimson Tide Sports Network. For all of us, have a great rest of your weekend. We're getting near the end of July. Football is coming, and thanks for being back with us on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Roll Tide, everyone.